Your guide to ultimate distance starts now. It starts here, and it all starts with how you start the swing. Let me talk about one of my favorite players on the PGA Tour, Alex Noren. I absolutely love his setup, but even more importantly, I love his little trigger micro move starting back. I see it a lot with the long drive guys. So let's talk about how we get set up for success for your longest year ever. I'm gonna take my setup here, and what I want you to do when looking at setup, there's a few things to address. One is stance width. How wide is the stance? So you've probably heard wider with the driver, narrow with the irons. Well, why is that? We want to be a little wider. That's going to allow us to be shallower, get a little bit more pressure shift side to side. But if we overdo it and we get too wide, very hard to make a nice full turn, and it's also very easy to get stuck on this trail leg, which is then going to make you too shallow to impact. So what I want us to think about here is we don't want to be so narrow that we can't get anything out of the ground. It's going to be a little bit harder to create distance, but we don't want to be so wide that we can't rotate. So I want you to feel like when you take your stance width, it's going to be just a little wider than your hips. So the inside of your feet should be just barely outside of your hips. If you're right there, that's absolutely perfect. I'm going to go ahead and take my setup here and just go ahead and hit one for you guys to start off. And then as we move through this, we'll read some of these numbers. So good setup. I think my stance width feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and hit one. Not bad, right down the middle, pretty much at my target. I would take that pretty much all day long. However, I think I could get a little bit more out of it. So I swung at 112 miles an hour there, hit up on it a little bit. Great spin rate, carried 275, total 303. All right, let's talk about some other things in the setup that I think are super, super important and things that I see actually overdone. So within the stance width, there's also ball position. I see a lot of players that just play the ball so far forward, thinking they're gonna hit more up on it, thinking they're gonna get more carry, and as a result, they either drop kick it because the club is too low by that point, or what I see even more often is because the ball's so far forward, they actually get their upper body forward and left for the right-handed golfer and causes a very steep outside-in swing. So if I was to set up like this, let's just have some fun, and this is kind of what I see with people at setup. I see a lot of shots like that. And so, you know, I tried to make a pretty full swing there. I'm not saying I swung as hard as I could, but if we look at those numbers, that was a lot worse as far as the carry and the total. That was actually only at 260 yards, so it was about 40 yards less right there. Now, as far as where we want the ball, I want it on the inside of the lead foot. And what you can do, super simple, put your feet together, micro step, big step, and I actually recommend, should have said this earlier, it's very hard when your head is behind the ball to actually see the ball position. You're not right in line, so you're gonna be behind it. So it's very hard to know that. People all the time, not your fault, don't blame yourself, but make sure that you have an alignment stick so you know exactly where you're at. So you can just put that alignment stick down, take your setup, right on the inside of the foot, and then from here, it's kind of that ample amount forward where I'm behind it and I can hit slightly up on it, but I'm not so far behind it that I'm gonna drop kick it. So I should have somewhat of an upward attack angle here. The last one, because I was set up incorrectly, I actually hit down on it, and we'll see where we're at. If I had to err, I'd rather have someone play it a little too far back than too far forward. Let's give this a shot. That one felt great. Felt like I got a little more pop on that one. Look at my TrackMan numbers, 115 club head speed there for a total of 311. Love it, and I hit up 3 degrees. Okay, final thing I wanna talk about, grip. So when you take your setup, so important. If we want to leverage our arms and hands, which are huge for creating power, we have to make sure that our grip is in the fingers. So I say a lot of the time, like women carrying a purse or men carrying a briefcase, but what you can also just do is put it in your fingers. So hold it with your trail hand out here just to kind of set it up, lay it across your fingers, and then you should be able to hold it with just your middle finger. So because it's against my heel pad here, I literally only have one finger on it. I'm able to hold it even, level to the ground. If I had it in my palm, it'd be all the way down there. So you want to make sure that it's in the fingers. That's going to make it a lot easier to use your wrists, create a lot more arm and hand speed, which is exactly what we want at the right time. Hands are great in the swing as long as it's at the right time. So last one here, good setup. I'm gonna really try to go after this. Really make sure it's in the fingers. Good ball position, good width. Let's go. Felt really good, little push draw. Let's check out these numbers. 116, so I gained a little speed already. Hit 2 degrees up on it. Final numbers, 322 total. I'll take it, love it. 301 carry, absolutely phenomenal. And then talking about how we start our swing, this is where I reference Alex Noren, a lot of the long drive guys. Love Alex's setup. One thing that he's kind of known for is more foot flare. And I think for a lot of you at home, this is so good. When you have more foot flare, it's gonna be a lot easier to rotate back, a lot easier to rotate through. It might feel like you got 20 years younger, which is great, just by a little 10 degrees on each side. And then what you're also gonna see with him is that when he sets up with the driver, you see with a lot of guys, but he's actually gonna have a little more pressure on that lead foot. Now you might think, why would you wanna be forward with the driver? Well, it's gonna allow you to have more space to shift back. So if you're already on the trail foot, you're gonna tend to get the lead foot a little bit too early. So what we wanna try to feel here is good setup, and you're gonna see him set up, and he's gonna have a little more pressure here. And the best drivers, what you're gonna see is that the center of their body is gonna lead the club head. So the inside is gonna move the outside, the body's gonna lead the club. And so what you're gonna see with him is he kind of sets up, hands go forward, body goes back. Hands go forward, body goes back, and that's his trigger. Hands go forward, body goes back, and then club follows. And so a great drill for this is the step drill to kind of get the initial feel, and then we'll actually drill it all the way in. So I'm gonna take my setup here, and I'm just gonna take my trail foot, place it back next to my lead, and then I'm gonna step, so body's leading, and then the club's gonna go. So let's try it again. Set up, step, turn. Let's go and hit one doing this. Good setup, look at my target, step, go, swing. Little bit to the left, but actually I felt a ton of speed. Stepping there, I got up to 118. Pretty cool. A little bit to the left. I normally wouldn't step on the golf course, but great exercise, great drill. And so 118 miles per hour with a step definitely sped up from when I initially started. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to try to incorporate that feeling, that pressure shift, without actually stepping. So you're gonna take your setup. We're gonna feel a little, channel a little Alex Noren right here. 60-40. Handle gets in front of the stick, body back. 60-40, handle in front of the stick, body back, turn. Do that one more time. 60-40, handle back. Let's go ahead and rip one, Alex Noren style. Good setup, 60-40, handle, step. Absolutely smashed. Love that one. I feel a little wind gusting, but it's not gonna touch that ball. 119.3 miles per hour. Absolutely love it. So start the swing correctly, set up for success, great trigger, and you're on your way to your ultimate distance.